Okay, picking up where we left off with Illustrator. This is Illustrator Part 2. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as per usual. Get rid of this. Okay, so here we were in Illustrator, and we were talking about the idea of building form using shapes. And earlier we made this sweet box, although now that I'm looking at it, it looks a little bit off kilter, and I'm not sure why, but you know, that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is just playing around, right? So now you may want to make a shape that is not rectilinear. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move this whole box over, and I want to move it together. So I'm going to use the selection tool, and I'm going to highlight all three of those shapes that make up the box so that it's all selected. And then I can just drag it up over here. Now, a cool thing about Illustrator is that you can actually, if you zoom out, and I'm holding the Option key or the Alt key to do that, I can in fact take this whole thing right off of the artboard and just save it out here in the gray space for later. It'll be saved with my file, and if I were to print this, it wouldn't print. But if it was some extra material that I wanted to keep for later, I might just leave it out here in the gray space. So I'm going to leave that there, zoom back in so that I can see the whole artboard, and actually I'm going to do that. Okay. So now we're going to talk about making some round shapes. In the same place that you found the rectangle tool, some people say rectangle, you're going to find the ellipse tool, which is the round shape tool. So I'm going to choose that, and just for, I don't know, entertainment's sake, I'm going to change the color. And let's make this a, yeah, we'll make it a nice purpley blue color. All right. And with the elliptical tool, you can draw an ellipses. You could also, if you hold the Shift key, draw a perfect circle. And if you were interested in making this look dimensional, again, thinking about that idea of building form out of shape, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create a shadow on one side of this circle. So to do that, and like I've said all along with Photoshop, there are a million different ways of doing this. So I'm going to show you the way that I do it, but if you come across another way, or if you already have some Illustrator experience and you have a different way of doing it, by all means, use that way. Totally fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this circle. So with the selection tool, I'm going to click on it so that it's selected, and I'm going to copy and paste it. Remember, the copy and paste stuff is under the edit menu, or you can do the keyboard shortcut of Apple C and Apple V to paste. So now I've got two identical circles, and I'm going to change, the second circle is going to become my shadow. And I'm going to change the color of that just slightly. Again, going for something, this is a shadow, so I want something a little bit darker. And you can see over here in your color picker, your new color versus your old color. That's pretty good. Did that change color? Yeah, it did. Okay. It's very subtle. And now what I need to do is I need to create a crescent. So I'm going to drag circle number 2 on top of circle number 1. Actually, I need to make a third circle, I'm sorry. All right, so I'm going to copy and paste that one more time. And now I'm going to drag circle 3 over circle 2. And because I want to make this crescent shape, I'm not going to put circle 3 directly on top of circle 2. I'm going to overlap it so that it's a little bit askew. Okay. Now I'm going to come over and I'm going to use a new tool. This tool is called the Shape Builder tool. It's about halfway down in your tool palette. First, I want to select both of those brand new circles, then go to the Shape Builder tool, and you'll notice that when I move my mouse over the shapes now, they become shaded, I guess, and that's indicating what part of the shape is going to be affected. Now, I want to get rid of this and this. So to do that, you'll see right now my cursor has a little plus mark next to it. If I hold down the Option key or the Alt key, it turns into a minus, and I can come over here and click to delete that. And again, holding that Option key or the Alt key, click to delete that. So now I have the crescent shape that will become my shadow. I'm going to move that using the selection tool, and it will line right up there with my first circle. And that is very, very, very subtle. I'm actually really happy with it, but in order for you to see it, I'm going to change that color just a little bit more dramatically, just in case your screen is a little bit different than mine. And now all of a sudden that circle has become a globe or a sphere. Again, if you want to move them together, use that selection tool to highlight both of them and move them to wherever you need. Oh, let's see. Now, you can also do the same sort of thing with the various other shapes. You know, if you wanted to use the polygon tool, you could draw a polygon. This is a 3-sided polygon. And you could, again, give it some sides to make it into a pyramid. So go ahead and play with that and see what kinds of cool things you can come up with. The other thing that you might want to use is, we talked about using the pen tool to create shapes by clicking, dragging, and making these rectilinear shapes. Remember, you've got to close that shape in order for it to be completed. So this will allow you to make more oddball shapes. And if you want to make more oddball organic shapes, you can use the curvature tool. The curvature tool works similarly to the pen tool. It places anchor points and allows you to draw a curvy line. Well, that's not curvy. Hang on, step backwards. So I've placed 2 anchor points, and when I click on that second anchor point, it allows me to begin to create a curve. Now, remember, you're not making a line, you're making a curvy shape. And again, it's not complete until you close that shape out. A cool thing about the curvy shapes that you've created with the curvature tool is that you can now come in, and each of these points is an anchor point. And to this point, we've only been using the selection tool. If you come in and choose the direct selection tool, you can come to these anchor points. Ooh, or can you? No. Excuse me. Not the direct selection tool. We're going to leave that alone again. You come back to the curvature tool with that curvy line or that curvy shape chosen. So let me just back up here. So if you want to adjust the anchor points and make some squishy adjustments to your curvy shape, first, using the regular selection tool, click on the shape, then come over here to your curvature tool, and any of the white points you can grab onto and adjust your shape. So I'm working on making a worm. And by worm, I mean Loch Ness Monster. And with any shape, again, now, if I wanted to change the color of it, I could do that up here. If I wanted more control over my color, I can use the color picker. If it's a Loch Ness Monster, obviously it should be green. And now I can start, if I want to make this really a Loch Ness Monster, I can start using shapes to build up on that. So maybe my Loch Ness Monster needs an eye. So I'm going to use the elliptical tool or the ellipse tool, and I want to be able to see it, so I'm going to give it a white eye. Boop. Looking good. I maybe would want to give it a pupil. So again, with the ellipse tool, the pupil would be black. And I might draw it out here and then drag it on. When you get this tiny, it's always nice to zoom in. So I'll drag my pupil onto my eye, and zoom back out. And if I wanted my Loch Ness Monster to have a little bit of dimension, I could do the same sort of shadowing effect that I did up here. And I could do that, I could freehand draw it with the curvature pen tool, or I could copy and paste my Nessie here. Get a second Nessie. And remember, we're going to need a third Nessie in order to create that. It seems like we're making a lot of shapes in order to get one little bit, but with the copy and paste, it's so fast and easy, there's not really any reason to complain. So again, I'm going to select just these two. Make sure you don't have your other Nessie selected, or move outside of your artboard to do this. And going back to the shape builder tool, now holding the Alt key, I want to delete that, and I want to delete that. Come back to the selection tool, move this relatively into place, give it a slightly darker color. And we're starting to get there. You may also then want to place some anchor points on this path so that you can adjust your shadow. And you can do that again with the curvature tool. So again, I selected the shape, then I chose the curvature tool. I could use the pre-existing anchor points to move this shadow around a bit. If I needed to add another place to make adjustments, notice how when I get close to the line, my cursor gets a little plus mark there. So I can add a new anchor point that I can then drag and change and adjust my shape with. That is a pretty fantastic Nessie. With that shape builder tool, you can do more than just delete parts of shapes. So I'm going to make some more space for myself, move all this stuff out off of my artboard. Oops, I forgot the eye. Might need to do some adjustment to that later. I'll fix you in post. Okay. With the shape builder tool, you can take two shapes and unite them, or make them, you can take two shapes and make them one. So with that shape tool, I'm going to start by making a rectangle. And let's make this bluish. Start with a rectangle. And let's say I wanted to make a shape that was, curved on one side. Okay, I can take the ellipse tool now, and I can draw an ellipse holding the shift key so that it's a perfect circle. And I may need to do some adjustment to make it just the right size. Oh my gosh, it's already the right size. And well, it needs to be a little bit smaller. All right, and let's say both of these had, I wanted to have a singular, like right now, it seems like, oh, well, what more would you need to do? You've already put those two shapes on top of each other, and you could move them around by highlighting them both, and they'll move together. But let's say I wanted to have an outline around this as one single shape. So I want something, let's go back to that magenta stroke. And now you can see there's an obvious issue. It's no longer a single shape, or it no longer looks like a single shape. It looks like two shapes. So I'm going to add that same stroke to the rectangle. Oh, I guess I have to type it in if I want to do 15. And again, I mean, that looks pretty cool, but that's not what we're going for. I want to get rid of this like segment of line. What I'm going to do, going to my shape builder tool, well, first highlight both of those shapes, go to your shape builder tool, and click and drag to include both shapes. Why did that not work? Won't undo that. I guess because I needed to get all the way up here. So we're going to click and drag all the way up there. And if I need to include this, because I've got the little positive mark, I can just click on that. Nope, I've got to drag, sorry. It's been a while since I've combined two shapes. And now we've got one shape with one outline. It's got a little bit of an issue right in here just because I didn't line them up perfectly or get them exactly the right size. So you'd want to do some adjustments in that case. But you can see too that because I did this, this is now one shape. And if I were to scale it, or if I were to rotate it, it will act as one because it is one. All right. That concludes my Illustrator demo part 2. Gives you some more stuff to play with, some more ideas to bounce around. And in the next video, we're going to talk about making those poetry broadsides. We're going to do that using the shape tools that I've showed you in these last 2 videos, We're also going to delve into using the type tool, obviously, and we're going to talk about doing something called tracing an image, which is where you can use something photographic in order to create a vector-based drawing. So with that in mind, as you're preparing or thinking about your broadsides, you can now start thinking about how you might use shapes, but you should know that there is a way to use photographic imagery. So you might want to start collecting some photographic imagery. You can also use, if you are someone who likes to draw, you can draw something out in your sketchbook and you can take a photograph of that drawing and we can import it into Illustrator and we can convert it into a vector file. So those are some options that you're going to be able to use for this project, and I'm going to show you how to do those in the third video. All right? Okay, have fun, and you'll see me soon. All right, bye.